Hello everybody, my name is Manny and this is my guided playthrough. In this series I will play a character through the campaign. I don't exactly know how far I will play a character, but I will try to explain everything, especially for newer players. If they watch this series, I want them to get the basic overview of the game and learn the mechanics and pretty much everything there is to know for a newer player. So in the beginning, I will just log in to my account. You can see I have already a lot of characters here, but if you are starting from new, you can just click create and then you get this overview. This can already be a little bit intimidating or confusing. In the middle, you have the current league. In Path of Exile, every few months, there is a special league with special mechanics. And after the league ends, everything in this league is just converted to standard. So if you play a Sanctum character, this is the current league we have, then you can play it for a limited amount of time in Sanctum, and after this time, your character and all the items you have collected in Sanctum will be transferred to standard. Standard is just the regular league that basically always stays the same. Then there is another distinction, and this is hardcore. Hardcore characters, if they die, then they will be automatically transformed to standard characters. Then there is also a solo self-found mode. That means that you will not be able to form groups with other players, you will not be able to trade with other players. It's basically something similar to a solo game. You can still talk to other players, you can still read the chat, but everything that is considered gameplay you will be doing yourself. Ruthless is a special mode. If you activate it, then you will be finding much less items. Some things are different, like flasks are not lasting as long. You will have to find the gems, you will not be able to buy them. And what all this is, I will explain later on during the game. But just as a general overview, you can just click on the league that you would like to play in, either the current league, in this case Sanctum, or in Standard League. If you want to play in Sanctum League and Hardcore, then it would be this right here. And then you can, if you want, also check these options like Solo Self-Found and or Ruthless. Usually I am playing the Standard League, the current league that is available, so in this case Sanctum, in Solo Self-Found. But not Hardcore, because usually I will die and I don't like to start over. But in this case, because I have already played so much in the current league, in Solo Self-Found and not Hardcore, I already have a lot of items and I want a completely fresh start for this playthrough. So in my case, I will start a Hardcore Sanctum in Solo Self-Found. If you're a newer player, I would suggest that you just play Sanctum, or if you start Path of Exile a little bit later, then maybe the current league that is available then. Okay, now that I have selected where I want to play, I just click on OK, and then I can select one of these characters right here. You can either play as a Templar, that is this one right here. Here you see a little bit of the lore. A Templar can be both a spellcaster or a melee character in the beginning, but I think I should explain a little bit better. In general, every character could play whatever you want. It's just the starting area for each character on the passive skill tree prefers a specific playstyle. Then right here we have the Shadow. The Shadow is more of a melee character. Then you have your Marauder. This is your typical brawler that you have. He is a melee character as well. you can use two-handed weapons, and it's more like a barbarian type of character. Because I just said that he can use two-handed weapons, like with these skills, in theory every character can use every weapon that he wants. It's just what's easier for beginners. This is the Scion. He's a pretty much mixed character. Then you have the Ranger. The Ranger can play with bow and arrow, or you can play it as a melee character as well. Then you have the Duelist. He's preferred for sword and board, or also any other type of melee character. And here is the Witch. This is the character that I will playing for his playthrough. She can be a necromancer with summoning skills, or somebody who casts spells. So now I will just name my character. You can pretty much type anything you want in there. I just like to put the SSF for solo self found, then what league I'm playing in, and then a short name. In this case, I will just call it. Okay. I will just call it Guide 1 or only Guide. Then I click on OK. Then, because I'm starting a hardcore character, I'm getting the warning that if a hardcore character dies, then GGG cannot restore any characters or items that I have lost. So I will just accept this, and now the game is starting. Because I've played this game a lot already, it is possible that I miss something that is just so natural to me in this game, or maybe I've already changed my options. So if anything looks different to you or you have additional questions, please just leave them in the comment. For me, I will just click this button to skip all tutorials. And you basically wake up on the beach, and you can see here, this is the first item. If you hover over it, then on the right side you can see a little tooltip what this item is. And if I left click on it, then my character will stand up and will pick up, well, if I click a second time, it will pick it up. Now I can see here a dying exile with an exclamation mark above him. I will just click on him. He will start a dialogue. If you're interested in the dialogue, then you can read it yourself during your playthrough, or listen to it, because basically every dialogue here is with voiceover as well. Now that I just click continue, you can see he gets attacked by a zombie, and when I left click, you can see here my default attack is on my left mouse key. I can just attack with the weapon that I just picked up. This enemy just dropped an item that you can see here. It's called Fireball, and if I click on it, I can pick it up. When I press the I key on my keyboard, or if I go to the menu on the bottom left and click on the inventory, then this inventory will open. And now you can see your character slots you have. On the top, you can equip a helmet, you can here equip a body armor, gloves, boots, a belt, 2 rings, an amulet, and then either a one-handed weapon or a one-hand weapon here and a second one-hand weapon here, or you could also use a shield here as well. If you're playing a ranged character, then you could use a bow in the left weapon slot and a quiver in the right weapon slot. If I hover over my weapon, you can see the name on top. It's a driftwood wand, and on the bottom you have some information about this weapon. You can see it has a physical damage of 5 to 9, it has a critical strike chance of 7%, it has 1.4 attacks per second, and the blue line, that's something that affects my character. It gives my character 8% increased spell damage. The other thing that you can see, Here are two circles on this weapon. They are both blue, and in the middle you can see this little bar. They are linked together. In Path of Exile, every spell or attack that you get is gotten through gems. This one right here is a gem. It's called Fireball, and in the middle the teal text tells you what the spell does. In this case, unleashes a ball of fire towards a target which explodes, damaging nearby foes. And the blue line is some other information where you can see, okay, it deals 9 to 4 damage and it has a 25% chance to ignite enemies. And below that you can see an experience bar, because like characters in Path of Exile, gems also gain experience. And once they reach, in this case, the 70 experience, the gem will level up. For a spell like Fireball, this means that the damage and the mana cost will be increased. The other thing on this gem is the Ignite. Ignite is an elemental ailment. I'm not quite sure if I should explain this now, but basically, if you deal fire damage and your fire damage crits the enemy, or you have chance to ignite, like in this case right here, then the enemy can be ignited. If you have a critical strike, you will always ignite, and in this case, if you do not critical strike, you have 20% chance to ignite. And an ignite places a damage over time effect on the enemy, and the damage of this damage over time is based off your initial hit damage of the spell. If you want to use this skill, in this case Fireball, I can just left click it, hover it over one of my blue sockets and left click again, and then it will be placed inside this socket. And you can see here on the right bottom in my skill bar, Fireball has been added to my skill bar, and currently this is the icon for the right mouse button, and if I click the right mouse button, I can shoot my Fireball like this. I personally like to rebind my primary skill. Therefore, I just click on an empty spot, then I hover over the ability that I want to bind to this keybind, in this case Fireball. Then I can just press my R key and Fireball will be shot again. If I want to unbind an ability, I can click on the slot and press this clear this slot icon, the X. And now it's gone. So at the moment on my left mouse key I have the default attack, and on the R key I have my Fireball. Then what else you can see here is my belt, well, not really belt, but my flask bar. Your character has 5 slots for flasks, and when you're starting the game you have 2 small life flasks and 1 small mana flask. When you read the text, you can see recovers 70 life over 3 seconds, so that's what will happen. Then it consumes 7 out of 21 charges, and the flask currently has 21 charges. Every flask has charges. The amount of charges varies between flasks, and if you kill enemies, then your flasks will gain charges. So as you can see, the amount of times that I can heal is limited until I kill more enemies to refill my charges. Then here on the bottom left you can see the red globe, that is my health pool, and on the right side the blue globe, that is my mana pool. The same like life flasks are mana flasks pretty much, they just have different values and they restore mana instead of life. And also I start with 3 scrolls of wisdom. That is used because this item right here, it is a white item, so the text is written in white. That means it's a normal item. But items can also be magic, then the text would be in blue. They can be rare, then the text would be in yellow, or they can be unique. Then it would be some kind of brown or reddish text. Usually, magic, rare, and unique items drop unidentified, so you initially do not know what they are. Therefore, you can use a scroll of wisdom on them to identify them and read what they are. If I press my escape key, I can just close this window, and now I can go through the campaign. With left click, I can just move. One thing before we start, before we continue, because I will use this. If I press escape, I can go to the options, and under input, I have my key bindings that I can set. And here I am looking for one specific, okay, this one right here. You have an option to attack in place. So usually when I'm attacking and my character knows that he cannot reach the target, he has maybe to get closer, or maybe there is an obstacle in the way, he has to go to the side and shoot, then he would move, and only after the condition is met, he would shoot. I personally prefer that all my skills are always used at my position, so therefore I can use this keybind. So if I press Shift and I press R, then he will always use the skill here. I can also enable this option in the skill itself. So now I clicked on the R place again, then the option window opens, and here is this always attack without moving. If I click once over it, then the toggle button will be brighter. That means it is active. I can also click on my primary attack, which is bound to a left mouse key, and I have an option to set it to move only. So if I do this and if I click on an enemy, my character will not use its default attack, but only move. Okay, now let's find some enemies. Here you can see some enemies. I use my R key to attack them. Apparently it takes 2 shots in the beginning, and now he's dead. You also have these interactable objects, like these barrels. Right now I can just go over there and click on them. As you can see, one of them exploded. Some barrels can explode. And here you have some different enemies which shoot a projectile at me. I can dodge it if I want and also attack them. And now you can see for a short moment this enemy was burning, he was ignited, and then he died. Maybe we can see it again. Okay, unfortunately not. But one of them dropped an additional item that you can see here, and these are iron greaves. If I click on them, my character will pick them up and automatically equip them. As you can see, this item here has 2 red circles and there is no bar in between them. So these are not linked. We will need this later on. And this red means that if I right click on this gem to remove it, I cannot place it in this red circle because this gem is blue. So keep that in mind, that your socket colors must always fit the gem color that you want to socket in them. Now I just follow the shore here. There are some other enemies. You can kill all the enemies here if you want, or because this is a starter area where GGG wants to introduce you to the game, you can also skip all the enemies, because in the end there is one enemy that will set you automatically to level 1. Here is a large chest. If I click on it, I can open it, and here I get another gem. So I will just pick it up, open the inventory, and this now is a support gem. It says the name is Arcane Search Support, and here we have one of the differences. The fireball is an active skill gem. That is something that I can bind to a key and use to attack with. A support gem cannot be actively used. Instead, it is used to support an active skill gem. In the teal color, you can read again what this skill in particular does. And below in the blue text, you have the more specific information. So really the details and the numbers. So in this case, each supported spell will track how much mana you spend on it, granting a buff when a total mana spent reaches a threshold. Cannot support skills used by totems, traps, mines, or skills with reservation. This is the basic description of this gem. And the specifics: gain Arcane Surge after spending a total of 15 mana. If I hover over my fireball, I can see some information about my fireball. And on the top right of this little box here, you can see the cost, 6 mana. So if I support my Fireball with Arcane Surge, then I would have to cast Fireball 3 times to gain Arcane Surge. Then in the next line, upfront costs, oh sorry, this is still the first line. I gain Arcane Surge after spending a total of 50 mana on upfront cost and effects of a supported skill. Then the next effect, Arcane Surge, grants 10% more spell damage. So while I have Arcane Surge, I will do more spell damage. Then Arcane Surge grants 30% increased mana regeneration rate. That is, if you look at my mana, currently I have 56 mana. I cast a Fireball and it removes the 6 mana that the Fireball costs and then slowly regenerates my missing mana. And while I have Arcane Surge, this mana regeneration rate will be increased by 30%. Then Arcane Surge lasts for 4 seconds, so it's a relatively short buff that I get. And supported skills deal 10% more damage while you have Arcane Surge. So as long as I'm affected by the Arcane Surge buff, I will do more damage. Then if you look at the name of the support gem, the Arcane Surge support, and you move to the left, you can see a little box, supportable skills. Then you can read Fireball and you see the screen checkmark next to Fireball. This means that Arcane Surge can support Fireball. If I click on Arcane Surge and hover over the second slot of my weapon, I can then left click and socket it in there. And now you can also see that if I hover over it, the ring here is highlighted and also the ring above. That means that this skill that I'm hovering over now, my Fireball, is supported by the second highlighted ring. And the other way around, if I hover over my Arcane Surge, then the highlight indicates that Arcane Surge is supporting my socketed Fireball. This support only works because I have this bar in between my sockets. This means these two sockets are linked together and my support gem can affect my Fireball. Now, down here at my flasks, you can see the number 1 besides my first flask. And if I press my number 1 on my keyboard, I will use this flask and my health bar, which is currently almost at half, will fill up. Now you can also see here that my flask lost some charges. It currently has only 14 charges left, so I'm already missing 7 of it. Now let's proceed. I will just kill a couple more monsters to refill my charges. Now you can see I have 15 charges again. Now you can see here I have my Arcane Surge buff and also the circle around my character. And at 18 charges. This is basically how you can move and use your skills in Path of Exile. I will just now proceed to the next enemy. Just before that, you can see down here, this is your experience bar. The yellow part is the field part. So if I hover over it, I can see at the moment I have already gained 29% of level 1. I will just follow the coast here. Like I said, if you want, you can kill as many enemies as you want here. Especially as a newer player, it can be good. And here you can see the enemy is burning. That is the ignite. So he took some damage over time. This is his special ability. He can heal once he reaches half life. And now you can see my character said he needs more mana. Well, she needs more mana, so I'm using my mana flask. And as you can see, I'm basically just running in circles and shooting my fireballs from range because I'm a caster and I have the ability for ranged attacks, or in this case spells. And now you can see I have reached level 2, I leveled up, and the enemy dropped some items. The blue ones are magic items and the white ones are normal items. In the beginning I will just pick up everything, and now I proceed to the first town. Now that I'm here, I will just explore the town a little bit. You can see here some NPCs, some non-player characters. This is Nessa, Bestel. They both have an exclamation mark, so they have something to say to me. And so does this character right here. If I talk to the first one, like I said before, if you're interested in the story or you want to hear what they are saying, you can listen to it during your own playthrough. I will just cancel it so I can remove the question marks because I personally like if they are gone. And this NPC will give me my quest reward, which is an additional skill. If you hover over the skill, then you will see what they will do. You can read them as well during your own playthrough. Right now I just want to show you what happens if I close this window without picking my reward. It is not lost. You can always go back. Right here on the bottom you have 2 buttons, and the exclamation mark one will open your quest menu or your world map. And here the bright buttons on the left side of this bar right here are your active quests. And if you click on the icon, you can change the quest that you are reading. And this is the first quest that I just completed before by killing Hillock, enemy at the gate. And it states that I have killed Hillock and I should talk to this NPC to get my reward. So my reward is not lost. I can just talk to him again. Then here is the entry Hillock reward, and if I click it, I get the same window again. Because I will play a summoner, a necromancer in this playthrough, and there is the skill Raise Zombie, which is fitting for a necromancer, I will pick this skill right here. You can either left click the skill, drag it over, and then left click again in your inventory. Or if you, let's say you want to pick Raise Zombie but by accident clicked on Rolling Magma, then you can just right click and it will cancel the selection. What you can do as well is you can press Ctrl on your keyboard and then just left click, and the reward will be automatically placed in your keyboard or in your inventory. Now when I open my world map or quest menu, I can see this quest item is grayed out and it moved to the right side of this little bar. That means this quest is complete. If I close this window again, you can reopen it by pressing the M key on your keyboard. One thing that I forgot to mention before is if I remove Arcane Search for a moment, the supportable skills box on the left side of the name from Arcane Search, where you can see Fireball with the green check mark. If you do not see this, I don't know if it's enabled by default or not, but it's an option somewhere in the menu. I have seen it yesterday, but I'm not quite sure if I can find it right now. I will just cut the video here. I will look for the option, and once I found it, I will cut back. Okay, I found the option. It is this one right here, Support Gem Utility Pop-up. Mine is checked here, and if I uncheck it and save, and I go back to my inventory and I hover over it, I will no longer see this information. If I check it and save, then the information is back. You can also see here is an option for the socket notches. So as you can see, this is an option for colorblind people. If I look at the red socket, it has these spikes around. And if I look at my blue socket, it has this swirly icon right here. This is configurable by the socket notches under UI in your options. At the moment, mine is set to large pattern. I could also set it to small notches, then it would look like this. Or I could set it to default, then you would have no distinction, only the color. But I personally like this one right here, so I will keep it. And here is an option, always show sockets. If I disable this, then the sockets are hidden by default, and only if I hover over it, the sockets will be shown. But I prefer it this way. And you also have an option to show the full description when you hover over an item that is laying on the ground. I prefer this because if I see an item, I can just hover over it and immediately see if I want to keep it or not pick it up at all. In general, you could always take a look in the options. Maybe there's something that you would change. For example, my cursor, I have set it to a pink cursor because in Path of Exile, in later stages of the game, there can be a lot of effects, and sometimes it's a little bit hard to find your cursor in all the effects. And this pink cursor helps a little bit. You could also set the size. Mine is currently set to medium. I could also set it to large. And these options are there for a reason. And if you play long enough, you will understand why. Okay, then I will put my Arcane Search back. And now I have a couple of items that I picked up from the Hillock fight. As you can see here, with my wool gloves, it says unidentified. Same with this wand and the iron ring. The iron ring already displays some text. It says adds 1 to 4 physical damage. In Path of Exile, items can have modifiers that influence your characters, like this adds 1 to 4 physical damage. Usually, a normal item usually does not have any of these modifiers. A magic item could have 2 of these modifiers, and a rare item could have 6 of these modifiers. But as you can see, this driftwood wand and this iron ring, well, let's stay with the driftwood wand because it's a normal item. This wand already has 10% increased spell damage, even though usually normal items cannot have any modifiers. This is because this is an implicit modifier. That means special items have these implicit modifiers that are always present, no matter what you do with the item. In general, there may be exceptions, but in general, they're always there. And the same with this iron ring. An iron ring will always have 1 to 4 physical damage to attacks. This bow, for example, does not have any implicit modifiers, and neither do these wool gloves. But if I want to know what these wool gloves do, I can just right-click on my Scroll of Wisdom, left-click on the item, and it will be identified. Now it says 10% increased rarity of items found. If I want to equip this item, I can just left-click it, hover over my glove slot, and left-click again, and now I will be affected by this. Another thing, if you press your C key, or if you go to Menu, and you go to Character Screen, you will get this overview. This overview has some basic information about your character. You can see here your name, your current location, how much life, mana and energy shield you have, your current level, how much intelligence, strength and dexterity you have. And then down here, you can select between your active skills or your default attack. This one is always present. And if I want to see the stats of my fireball, I can click here, and then here I can see some information about my fireball. If I constantly keep casting, this is approximately my DPS according to this screen, then I can cast fireball 1.33 times per second, the combined damage, and so on. Early on, this overview could give you some information, but especially when it comes to damage, I would not always believe everything that is displayed here, because this character screen is known to be a bit misleading. Let's just leave it at that. If you switch to defense, you can see some information about your character. Some very important things that you should always keep in mind in later stages of the game is your fire, cold and lightning resistance, also your chaos resistance and your chance to block. I currently have a shield equipped, and if I look at this shield, it has chance to block 25% chance, and this is also represented here in this defense tab of my character menu. Then I can see currently I have 1.1 mana per second mana regeneration, the energy shield recharge per second. So per second I will recharge 2 energy shield. Energy shield I have not covered before. When you look at my life globe right here, you can see now this bluish or white little half circle around my life globe, and on the top it says shield 6 out of 6. This is due to my wool gloves. If you read the first line of my wool gloves, it says energy shield 6. Energy shield is something similar to life. If you take damage, then the damage will be taken from your energy shield first. Then if you stop taking damage for a specific amount of time, then your energy shield will start filling up again. And how fast this is going is determined by your energy shield recharge. You can see this later on when we are back in combat. Then you can also see the maximum energy shield, and these values right here, the physical damage reduction and the chance to evade, these are very misleading. I would never trust them because of the way armor or physical damage reduction and chance to evade is calculated in the game. But for that, I think it's too early to discuss this, but just in general, very short, the more damage you take in a single hit, the more armor you would need to reduce a significant amount of this. So for lower hits, armor is okay, but for high damage hits, you almost certainly will not get the amount of armor you would need to reduce a significant amount of it. Under miscellaneous, you can see how much recovery per leech you have and some other stats. This character will not leech, so in this playthrough I will not go over this. And charges. In this game there are different charges that can benefit your character, but I will not use them, so in this playthrough I will also not go over it, to keep it a little bit simpler. Maybe in a later episode, but for now I think this was already a lot of information. I will just now, one of the last things I will do in this episode is socket my race zombie. Once again, just left click it, hover over a blue socket, and then you left click again to insert it. Then it will automatically be added to your skill bar if there is a slot available. It has been added to my right mouse button, but I want it somewhere else. So I remove it from the right mouse button. I set it to my T key, and I will also set always attack without moving. That means I can always cast it without my character moving. When you start from the beginning, your key bindings will be different. But if you press escape and go to options, under input, you can set your keybinds right here. On the top, you have your flask slots. So for me, it's the default 1 to 5. The temporal bound skills you will need later on if you do specific content. And down here, the use bound skill are the ones that you can change. The first skill is always set to left click. That is this one right here that I have set to move only. And everything else you can set to whatever you want. You have also a second skill bar that is currently not shown, but if I press my control key, then you see this is my second skill bar where you can also set skills. And how you use these skills with what buttons you can select here in the input menu. Then the last thing that I will do now is clean up my inventory. I can go to an NPC. Not all NPCs buy or sell items, but in this case Nessa buys and sells items. So I will just go to sell items. I get this inventory, and if I want to sell an item, I either can just left click it, hover over it, your offer in this area right here, left click again, and then Nessa shows me her offer. When I sell a white item, a normal item, then I will get a scroll fragment. And you can see the stack size, 1 out of 5. Once I have 5 scroll fragments, then they will be converted to a scroll of wisdom. In the beginning, you have very limited resources, so I personally always sell quite a few items, even white ones. Later on in the game, I will not do this anymore, but you have to decide if you want to do this or not. I personally just like to have a few scrolls of wisdom extra. Now, the other way, how I can move items from here to here, is once again, press the Control key on my keyboard, click on the item that I want to sell, and it's going over. Then I also want to sell this unidentified driftwood wand, and she will offer me 2 transmutation shards for this. For this ring, I will use a scroll of wisdom to identify this ring. I could use this ring. I'm not attacking myself, so the 1 to 4 physical damage to attacks does not benefit me, because I'm only casting spells at the moment and I will summon zombies. But the cast speed would increase the speed at which I can cast my fireballs, and also the speed at which I can cast my raise zombie spell. But in this case I will also sell this item, and for this ring she will offer me alteration shards. These are 2 different types of shards, and in general you can say that you get these transmutation shards for magic unidentified items, and these alteration shards from magic identified items and from some other items as well. But in this case, it's unidentified, means transmutation, identified, alteration. Later on, it can vary a bit, but that's the general rule of thumb. If I click on accept, the trade will be done, and you can see the items are gone, and instead I have these currency items. Then here on the left side, you can see I have my stash. And if I click here, you can see this is the inventory that I have in my stash. When you start a new character on a new game and you're playing this for the first time, then you will have much less entries right here. I think you may have 1 or 2 stash tabs. If you look at them, on the top you have these little bars, and if I click on the 2, then the second stash tab will be active. If I click back on the 1, then the 1 will be active again. And I think when you start out, you will only have these 2. And to keep this guided playthrough as close to your playthrough as possible, I will also stay at only these 2 stash tabs for now. If I hold Control and left click on these items, then I can store them in my stash. So if I close this window and I open my stash again, they will be here. So I can just save items for later use. Now that my inventory is clean, I have my raised zombie skill, my fireball, and some basic items, I will end this episode here. I hope you have found something useful in this video, and have a good time. Goodbye.